I first played Torchlight about a year or so after it released. Being a young, impressionable preteen delving into the world of hack-and-slash ARPGs, I had positively worn out the copy of Diablo 2 that I got in a box set from Toys R Us about a year prior. Yes, Toys R Us not only stocked a Diablo box set, but sold it to an 11-year-old. How I turned out is starting to make more sense by the day. Anyway, like everyone else around that time, I was firmly in the Diablo 3 waiting room. Waiting for Blizzard to finally deliver was getting tiresome, especially with how little we knew about D3. It's for that reason that Torchlight's release was such a boon to Diablo-starved gamers. In a time of dire need, it provided a fresh take on the classic hack-and-slash systems that we had all come to know and love, mainly from games like, surprise surprise, Diablo. In fact, Torchlight is really almost unapologetically blatant in the way that it borrows from other more well-known and revered titles. There's a reason for that, though. Torchlight was released in the fall of 2009, being developed and published by Runic Games. Runic Games was founded in 2008 by a few dudes, namely Travis Baldry, who was the lead designer for an ARPG by the name of Fate, Max and Eric Schaefer, both of whom worked on Diablo 1 and 2, and Peter Hu, who also worked at Blizzard for a time. Originally, they had set out to make a new MMORPG before eventually deciding that that's a really lofty goal for a brand new studio, even one with the backing of battle-tested veterans of the industry. So they shifted towards what they know. I tell you all of this not to bore you, but to better paint a picture as to why the first Torchlight is basically an XP, a strange amalgamation, of Fate and the first Diablo. For one, it looks a hell of a lot like Fate and utilizes its pet mechanic, wherein you get a helpful cat or dog who follows you around, helps out in combat, and can be sent back to town to clear your inventory without forcing you to leave the dungeon. It also carries over the fame and spell mechanics from Baldry's effort, with the former awarding a character with additional skill points for killing bosses and completing side quests, with the latter allowing characters to learn a limited number of spells that typically can't be found in the various skill trees. Fishing is here from Fate as well, and it's definitely one of the game mechanics of all time. Yes, totally. What it takes from the original Diablo is the framework. It all takes place in one town, also named Torchlight. You explore one procedurally generated dungeon conveniently located just outside of that town, and the razor-thin story is predominantly based around a premise of vanquishing the evil that resides at the bottom in order to save the town and its residents. Also like the first Diablo is the expected triangle of classes to choose from, with the fighter, rogue, and wizard on offer. Each character has multiple different ways that they can be built, owing to the 3 trees each of them possess, and you get a pretty good amount of say in how you actually deal with the hordes of enemies you mow through, letting you either specialize in one tree or spec into several to turn yourself into a jack of all trades. Beyond that, Torchlight is real skinny with regard to what new advancements it brings to the table. It's because of that fact that much of the reception associated with it was somewhere along the lines of, it's a good game, but we've seen all it has to offer before. And that pretty much echoes my own sentiments. I think it's a thoroughly enjoyable experience, if not one that's going to find its way into the Criterion collection. Don't mistake my somewhat muted assessment for a recommendation that this game isn't worth the time. It does have its own merits with which to command your attention. For one, it looks outstanding. From landscapes to enemy designs, the bright cartoonish theme, one that mixes steampunk affectations with traditional medieval stylings, does a great job in helping it stand out within a genre that's more liable to opt for darker, gloomier threads. There is real weight to the combat, found primarily in the spell effects, and it plays out at breakneck speed, all while maintaining strong gameplay balance. Even if you don't build a character perfectly, you'll have no issue getting through the game. The summoning alchemist scene in the majority of this video was not very good, but it never got even close to the point that I thought I might have to restart because of it. The music is also a standout point, mainly because they brought in former Diablo composer Matt Ullman. There's a lot of atmospheric depth to be found in the tracks that work nicely with the visuals, which is just a perfect combination for drumming up immersion. Being predicated nearly entirely on mechanics cemented and popularized by other games, you might still be wondering why exactly Torchlight is worth the time. To which I would say that is precisely why Torchlight is worth the time. I'm not kidding when I say that Torchlight basically takes the best parts of both Fate and Diablo and puts them into one game. In doing so, it creates an experience that features unctuous amounts of replayability, a story that doesn't dare to get in the way for those that don't care about it, and gameplay that allows players to strike out however they see fit. It takes what other games have found success with, polishes those aspects up a bit, and drops them into a slightly different vessel, but the core of what makes those mechanics successful remains. Sure, it's everything we've already seen, but that also means it's exactly what we want. Last I checked, the first Diablo didn't spawn a franchise because we hated the premise that it was based off of. Quite the opposite, if I'm not mistaken. We loved the simplicity found in the town square of Old Tristram, and there's no reason that we can't still love it in Torchlight. Notice how over the course of this review I never went particularly in-depth as to the various mechanics? That's because we all know what makes this type of game great, and our own expectations, along with the video, do a more than suitable job of filling in those blanks for us. Yes, I will stick my neck out and emphatically say that I wish more games would do exactly what Torchlight does in the way that it cribs the best parts of titles we already love, to take proven premises and update them for whenever they're being released. It serves as a reminder that there's nothing wrong with liking what we already know. Playing a game like Torchlight doesn't mean never playing D1 or Fate again, it just means knowing with a fair degree of certainty that it's going to deliver an experience that will meet whatever expectations we have set for it, because it is literally geared to do just that. There's nothing wrong with, yes, copying what makes players love games. Often is it the games that are obsessed with arbitrary innovation and advancement that critics love and actual players hate. Games are meant to be fun, not exhibits through which the hubris of talking heads should be stroked. If making something fun means walking a beaten path, then that's exactly what should be done and what Torchlight does. Deriding experiences, knocking them down a peg because they provide exactly what people want, is one of the worst trends in gaming culture, and one that I hate that I feed into with my own opinion of this game. If you're a fan of hack-and-slash ARPGs, there is no reason that you shouldn't play Torchlight. It lumps together everything that is viewed as good from this genre and puts it into one place. In doing so, it helped to spawn one of the better, more recent ARPG franchises, if one that's tailed off a bit of late, mainly because the third game had a pretty terrible development cycle, and the most recent release is a weird mobile game. Made in China, I don't know, it's a weird game. I'm sure at some point in the future we'll talk about how Torchlight 2, the sequel, managed to outdo Diablo 3 when it was first released. But alas, that's a story for another time.